This is the Rising Stars Show with Rex Wallace.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Rising Stars, the show where we strive to have the most topical conversations with the brightest minds and stars. Have a great show today. If you watched episode 1, you saw we left off with some CAPS discussion, and we're going to get right back into that today and go deeper. So I think of today as sort of an unsolved mysteries episode where we are going to get behind the veil of CAPS and take some of the mystery away. So before I bring on my guests, I want to invite back the co-host and CEO of our sponsor, Hyperlift, Mick Toomey. Mick, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Happy to be here.
And maybe we'll tee up the conversation real quick before we bring the guests on. But, CAPS is easily arguably, the most important thing to be focused on in CAPS for 2023 stars. The doubling of the weights, the mystery of the measures, kind of the difficulty in tackling them sometimes. It's a third of stars. It's never been more than, 17, 18% of stars in the past, but it's all of a sudden a third all by itself. And, the strategies, they vary broadly between plans. And something important about CAPS is there's no denominator, right? So unlike HEDIS and medication adherence, we don't know who's going to get the survey. We don't know who's going to fill out the survey. And usually we don't know how people are going to respond to the survey when they do fill it out. There are some ways to understand that more deeply, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's bring on our guest. So David Larson is our first guest. He's back from episode 1. And David is the former director of quality for Select Health, a plan that achieved 5 stars on every CAPS measure, and on top of that, achieved 5 stars overall. So I think David definitely has a feel for what's important in CAPS. And then our second guest, new guest today, Saeed Aminzadeh, CEO of Decision Point, a predictive analytics company that really helps plans use predictive analytics to inform their decisions. Is doing a lot of work around CAPS and disenrollment, but all the member experience measures, as well as HEDIS measures, med adherence, plan all-cause readmissions, helping plans predict, likelihood of compliance around those measures. He works with a lot of plans and several of my clients. So, Saeed, welcome to the show. David, welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, first question. Let's get right into, if we try to unveil the mystery of CAPS, right? So, Saeed, you heard me talk a little bit about what is going on out in the marketplace, at least that I see. What do you see when you're working with health plans now?
Well, first of all, I want to sort of give David a bit more props. Yes, 5-star for CAPS. Yes, 5 stars overall, but also the best in the service area. In their service area for CAPS, number 1. And if you look at it even measure by measure, mostly number 1, sometimes number 2. So it's excelling at CAPS beyond what other plans have in their service area. So I think that's getting 5 stars impressive, even more impressive. So what do I see out there? So, if I was going to sort of like look at it, what's best practice versus things that aren't best practice. I'll talk about those if you don't mind answer your questions in that way. So best practice to me is to look at CAPS and member experience both together and separately. So obviously our overarching goal is to improve member experience. But we're graded, if you will, quote unquote graded on CAPS. So we need to excel at that survey as well. So we need to not only improve the experience of the member, but we need to excel at this thing that we're graded on. So we need to do well on the test and learn the subject area. So best practices is when we're dealing both those things. So from a CAPS perspective, what we want to do is really help our clients be the best they can be. Meaning what we want to do is right before CAPS goes out, try to maximize the scores. We don't know who's going to get targeted for the survey. We don't know who's going to respond positively, negatively. That's what Decision Point does, is predict if you are targeted, you're a likely responder, and if you're targeted, you're a likely negative versus positive responder. So we want to be able to outreach to those individuals that are likely survey responders right before CAPS goes out and really help them, if you will, get over any kind of barriers that they might have. So if they have access barriers, or provider satisfaction, or plan satisfaction barriers, either real or perceived, for us to communicate with them in a manner that will help elevate their perception, elevate the reality, if you will, for those types of individuals. But we also want to do over the course of the year is to improve member experience. So what we find in our analytics is CAPS doesn't stand by itself. If I have access issues, provider, plan issues, that manifests itself in lower HEDIS rates, lower med adherence rates. If I have a chronic conditions, I'm more likely to have an avoidable ED or an avoidable admission. So there's overlap with other initiatives in the plan. So the question is, how can I infuse my outreach to individuals over the course of the year to try to tackle CAPS while also trying to accomplish other business goals? So really make member experience front and center. There's also other things, obviously, you want to be able to improve your benefits and things like that, but that's not what we do. What we're here is to try to help sort of target the right people for that. But obviously, you want to continue to improve. What's not best practice is obviously just hope. Let's just keep surveying members and hope that our, we're going to continue to improve. Let's wait for a couple of years until we implement some benefit strategies. There's no time to wait. What we want to do is to help our clients become better now and to be able to elevate their ratings right now.
So you bring up one thing with the survey aspects, and I've talked to a number of people about this recently. How do you guys view? I mean, you both have experienced significant success in this space, but how do you guys view or operate with those off-cycle surveys? Are there what do you think of them in general, and then are there tactics to employ, tactics to avoid, based on your experience?
Yeah, so let me jump in. Let me jump in with that real quick. I've talked with a lot of plans about CAPS. Some of the plans say, our CAP scores are high, and we don't know why they're high. There'll be other plans that say their CAP scores are low, and would say we don't know why they're low. They don't know who to reach out to. So we approach this more as like a HEDIS measure. So with a HEDIS measure, you have a denominator. You know who the target population is, and that's what Decision Point helped us do at Select Health, was identify those members who are likely to respond to the survey and also are likely to respond either very positively on the survey or very negatively on the survey. And there's a different strategy for each of those populations. For those who are going to respond positively to the survey and are likely to respond to the survey, they're your base, like a political campaign. You want them to get out to vote. You've got to have a strategy to remind them to respond to the survey and remind them of the value that they felt by being a member of the plan. For those members who are potentially negative responders and are likely to respond to the survey if it's sent to their home, you need to have a strategy to try to reach out to them to solve the issues that are causing their negative perceptions of the plan. And to us, that's was a direct phone call out to those individuals with a scripted message that a lot of times we didn't use the script, because when we got the person on the phone, they started talking about the concerns they had, and we tried to solve those right on the phone. And we found that that's what made the difference for us. So we didn't tackle the whole population. We didn't survey and use a CAP survey for the whole population. To me, doing a mock CAP survey and sending it out to everybody on the plan is just another form of abrasion out there in terms of your members. They all don't need to get a mock CAP survey. You need to have a company like Saeed's Decision Point who will help you target the individuals you need to reach out to, and then use your resources there.
That makes total sense.
It does. So, David, to press on that just a bit, because I've never been a fan of using mock caps surveys for predicting your score, right? I've always found but because it's like it's never accurate. It never really predicts exactly how you're going to score because of the randomness of the sample, and it probably should, and maybe I've just not done it correctly before. But I'm sure Saeed is thinking, well, Rex, there is math here. There's a way to get right. But I've always found value in the drill down aspect of it to understand those pain points a little more deeply, like if I asked you on a scale of 0 to 10, how would you rate your health plan? That's important, but what's more important is why did you answer it that way? And that's the follow-up question where you do some drill down. So not asking all the CAPS questions, but just the essence of the drill down aspect, and to dig down into the pain point a little bit more. How have you tackled that? Did Saeed help you with that?
Initially we did some mock surveys, and we did the drill down questions like you're talking about. And it helped us to focus on some of the issues, and a lot of the issues that members have were related to out-of-pocket costs, which are not accurately measured as part of CAPS. There are no questions within the CAPS survey. They talk about the cost impact of their plan, their out-of-pocket expenses. So that helped us to focus some of our benefit remodeling and some of those kinds of things. And it's important to continue to get ongoing CAPS mock survey for a sample of your population, not the whole population, because as Saeed will mention, it's important for them to get ongoing feedback regarding the performance of their model. So if they predicted a certain member would respond negatively to the survey or positive to the survey, and then you actually send them a mock CAP survey and see how they respond, then it's important for Saeed to see that so that he can fine-tune his model to make sure that it's accurately predicting. But one of the things we do in lieu of doing mock CAP surveys is we do one-question surveys at the end of customer service calls, and we alternate those questions between rating of the health plan, rating of the drug plan,
that's cool.
We also ask, about the customer service aspect of the call, so that, the CAPS questions related to, did we solve your problem and did we treat you with respect on this call? So we ask those questions on an ongoing basis. It helps us over the year get an idea where we are with some of those CAPS related questions without having to survey everybody.
I like that a lot. I like that's where I see plans moving is going from the big broad mock cap survey to the one question throughout the year periodically. Either it's a post customer service call, like you're saying, which that's a great idea. Not just asking the customer service experience, but asking about the rating of drug plan, rating of health plan right after the call. But those kind of single questions that aren't as abrasive, and you can ask them after a visit, after an annual wellness visit, or after a medication, a mail order medication is ordered. How was that experience? So yeah, no, I love that. Saeed, related to all of that, I've heard David talk before about the importance of benefit stabilization in CAPS. But what about the plans who aren't quite at 4 stars yet? What about the plans who can't keep their benefits stable, who can't, they don't have the revenue, they don't have the quality bonus payments from the stars yet. So they feel like they can't, improve their benefits or even keep them stable. They kind of have to keep cutting them back a little bit to shift if they want supplemental benefits to be competitive, right? They have to take something else away from a cost share standpoint or a coverage standpoint. But what is your advice for plans who are struggling with that?
Our advice is, obviously you need to get the benefits up to snuff. It's going to take a while to get there. It might take a year, 6 months, however long it takes. But in the meantime, as you had said when we first started the webinar, is this episode is it matters now to improve scores. So our tact is, yes, continue to improve, continue the things that you're doing, do the things that you're doing. In the meantime, your 3.5 star, your 3-star plan for CAPS, you need to start elevating that a little bit over the course of the year. So what can we do? Well, this is the things that David was talking about. What we want to do is to target people that are likely negative responders, likely positive responders. I want to be able to some of the negative responders, some of them have real issues, but some of them have perception issues. So even if I could move it a little bit, that would be beneficial to me. A perception issue is, if you ask, for example, in a mock survey, have you called customer service in the past 6 months? They'll say yes. In a mock survey, you can actually go back to see if they've actually called customer service in the past 6 months. You see, well, it's been 12 months, 18 months, maybe never. The perception is I've called and has been a bad experience. Have you gone to a doctor in the past 6 months? Some members will say yes, even though it's been longer than 6 months since they've gone to the doctor. So in those instances, you're playing around the edges a little bit, but still, it's important. You can see the cut points are so close together that playing around the edges is not a bad thing. So we want to be able to elevate the plan to, as I said before, to as good as they can be. And that could be, maybe a person that responded to a 6, can we help move them to a 7? You're not asking for a 7. It's not like, a car dealership saying, if you don't give me a 5 out of 5, I'm gonna get fired. You can't do that. So what we're really trying to do is just improve their experience just a little bit to say, well, let me help you set up an appointment with your doctor. Well, your customer service is calling them, so now they're giving a positive experience. You're talking about, for these unengaged members, an over-the-counter drug card. You're doing all kinds of things in that way. What I also want to do, if you don't mind, is go back to the question you asked David about doing mock surveys for the whole population. Doing mock surveys, we believe in that. Definitely do a sliver of the population, learn to see what people are saying, link it with other types of data to learn about that, use it for predictive analytics, use it in companies like us, whatever the case is. However, if you start surveying the whole population, it's just, as David said, there's one aspect of it, which is abrasion, but the other aspect is, what are you going to do with it? So I have 100,000 members. I survey all of them. Let's say I get 30,000 responses. Of those 30,000 responses, potentially 5 to 10,000 of them have had at least one negative response to something. Is that enough to follow up with 5 to 10,000 members? So are members expecting you to follow up with those 5 to 10,000? So it becomes unwieldy. And so what we want to do is to try to introduce a little bit of finesse to try to narrow the focus to individuals that are going to impact your score, but then also deal with member experience over the course of the year. So I wanted to also, kind of impart that as well, is that doing mocks is good, mock surveys, doing it for the whole population. Again, there's some lack of finesse, abrasion there, and in terms of what does the member expect then? If they answered negative to one question, are they expecting a callback at that point?
So in your experience, let's say that the plan's got 100,000 members. How many typically are you doing a mock survey with?
We'd recommend doing mock survey for maybe 1,000 members.
Oh, okay.
So maybe 1% of the population to see if you can get at least a couple of hundred responses per question. So that's what we recommend. Obviously there's no, the more is a little bit better. I wouldn't say let's survey the whole 100,000. If you can get the end to be at least 100, 200 members in terms of negative responders, I think that would be very useful.
Do you hand pick those, or is it completely random? The people that you random? Okay.
Yeah, we recommend a random mock survey, much like a survey, to kind of do it into, just like a CAP survey is random. We recommend a mock survey to be random as well.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And I know we're talking CAPs, and only returning members, or at least members who've been with the plan for 6 months or longer, are eligible for the survey. So, brand new members are not eligible in the first year if they join in January. However, so I know plans that only maybe do the mock survey for members who are eligible for CAPs, but there's also, and I want to get your take on this real quick, benefit, right, in surveying those, or at least understanding the experience of those new members who are not yet eligible for caps, but they will be in year 2 and year 1. Really tees them up for, it really sets the foundation of their experience, right? So understanding the pain points they have in the first year when they're first coming on board, super important, right? You guys agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
David, would you agree with that? Also, they're going to be 6 months by the time the caps goes out as well, so there's no reason not to get a feel for it. Please,
it's
David.
much like the HEDIS measure. You don't want to just focus on those that are eligible for the measure right now. You want to focus on those members who are going to be in your HEDIS population for the measurement period coming up. Same thing with caps. You may lose some of those members because if they drop off and disenroll off your plan, then they're not eligible for the survey. But all those new members that came on the plan last year, they will be eligible. So you have to factor them in.
So I want to jump on something that Saeed had mentioned earlier, and it was partly, I think, kudos to David, but I think it's important. You were talking about the fact that, how he's excelled even in that region. I think that there are a lot of people that might think, well, Utah, maybe he's got, maybe just the population there is going to be easier to manage. But that's not the case. And I would say, frankly, you guys have demonstrated a whole lot of success that clearly has taken a lot of hard work and determination. But, over the years, you've now gotten to not only 5 stars overall, but 5 stars within all the CAPS measures. And this last year was a big push. So you took one of the measures from a 4 to a 5, and you took one of them from a 2 to a 5. And I think for everybody out there who's thinking about CAPS and thinking about how important this is for their scores this year, I'd be curious to have you guys just kind of quickly step through, are there specific steps that you guys undertook, especially to move that one from 2 to 5 in 1 year? But are there specific things that you'd recommend as plans, right here at the end of this year? How are we thinking about making these initiatives to truly impact our scores for next year?
Yeah, I'll take a first stab at that. Our CAP scores have not always been high. I know there are some plans out there that have always had high CAP scores. We had a lot of 3s and some 2s. We really, we're not a high star rated plan, and we made several changes. One was we really tried not to make any negative benefit or changes to the plan. And we learned that lesson by implementing a drug deductible, communicating it in the ANOC, and assuming that members would understand the benefit change. And then here comes January, and they all have to start paying for their prescription, the full cost of their prescriptions in January, and the phone calls started coming. And needless to say, we were rated fairly low that next year on the CAP survey. So one, we really avoid at all costs making negative changes to anything. If a provider leaves, if a medical group leaves the plan, if we have to change and take away a supplemental benefit, if we have to make changes on the formulary, what we're doing out in front of that is overly communicating. Every person that's affected by that gets a personal phone call to try to explain the change. So that's one thing we did. The second thing we did was try to avoid abrasion. We took away a lot of the IVR calls that we were doing, did more work with our providers reaching out to our members, and we did more focused communication to subpopulations instead of trying to communicate to the whole population. And then we used direction from Saeed to focus on members. So, for example, one of the things we did during COVID is we used Decision Point to help us predict which of the members on our plan would have the most complications from COVID if they got COVID. And then that was, a significant number of members, but our customer service team at that particular point were not receiving a lot of inbound calls. And so we did a lot of outbound calls to individuals to educate them about how to be tested, what their benefits were, and what the resources were if they did get COVID, and how to stay safe. And we sent them all a face mask that had Select Health on it, and we'd go around and we'd see people with their Select Health masks on, and people really appreciated those kinds of things. So we did a lot of things, not just one thing. So again, I take it back to a HEDIS measure. There's not one golden egg thing out there that you're going to do to improve your CAPS survey. You have to nickel and dime it just like you would a strategy related to HEDIS. So you have to have a couple, 3 or 4 member strategies. You have to involve your providers. We haven't even scratched the surface in this call about how to get providers educated about their impact on CAPS and have them help you outreach directly to their patients, your members, to improve CAPS.
Sounds like that's a whole nother episode again.
Yeah, I think that's a great episode. That would be a great episode, and I know that Saeed's doing some things in his group related to that, and we did a lot of that work at Select Health as well. But those are the kinds of strategies that we worked on, but specifically related to those members that were deemed to be a high risk for a negative response to the plan. We had about 1,500 members that were targeted out of a plan of about 45,000 members. And we struggled with the resources to try to find time to call 1,500 members. So we divided that group up into 3 buckets. We divided it up between those that were likely to respond negatively based upon a pharmacy concern. And we had the pharmacy team reach out to them. We had those members who had been on the plan for less than 6 months, and we gave them to the sales call team because they were still onboarding and being as a member of the plan. And they took those calls, and the rest of the calls were handled by our customer service staff. And so as we marshaled resources across the plan in a team effort, we were able to make those calls. And that's primarily what helped us move. We only had 2 measures that were not 5 stars. One was rating of the drug plan, and one was rating of the health plan. And both of those measures, as Mick mentioned, we were able to improve significantly in a short time period. But over time, CAPS is a long run. It's not something you're going to have big impacts really fast. It's something you're going to have to work at over time and consistently in order to get the results that you want.
Yeah.
Saeed, did you want to jump in there before I?
Yeah. I love what David had done. David's team had done. We're still struggling with COVID, so I don't want to act like this is over. But last year, when there was a lot of unknowns, right, and there was a lot of confusion, maybe still is a little bit, but as a health plan. When I talk to health plans, everyone really wants to become a trusted source of information, not just a claims payer. Look, I want to be the organization that members turn to when they have a healthcare question. And to become that, we need to take a leadership role when the chips are down, if you will, when there are a lot of unknowns, when things are confusing, when things are somewhat dangerous. So, and I think that's what Select Health did. So instead of, wait for, direct them to the CDC, we don't want to have anything to do with communicating information related to COVID. Again, this is early on, not right now. What Select Health did was really take the bull by the horns, and really and members really remember that. Look, this is a time when things were confusing and scary. And look, Select Health reached out to me and really helped me understand what's known and what's unknown, and really provide me with guidance. Maybe this is guidance that's available online, but still, it's one-on-one guidance as to what I can do to stay healthy in this scary time. And I think those things go a long way. They don't come along that often in terms of just things that are just game changers, if you will. And if health plans are able to stay ahead of that, and really try to communicate with members, be proactive in communicating with members, I think that goes a long way, longer term. We had talked about improving CAPS in general, improving member experience in general, with different members with different types of issues. But these are also opportunities that the plan can really become a trusted source of information.
Yeah, I would say, so just kind of recap what we've talked about so far, right? Because so caps is a long game. Caps is difficult. Caps doesn't have defined denominators. Caps requires some effort, right? So those things alone have kind of made plans deploy hope as a strategy in the past, right? And just focus on HEDIS and adherence and things like that, in hope that their caps measures would be okay and not kill them. So but now you can't afford to do that, obviously, right? I mean, now caps count so much, but to I think the point of this call and the things that are coming out that are so important are that you can do things. You can make incremental improvements, like you were saying, Saeed, and that's really important. Like, the cut points are so tight. You don't have to shift the whole world, right? You don't have to change the climate of every member in your whole health plan. You can identify members that are at highest risk, that are most likely to respond, and things like that, and have these small groups of these small denominators of measure of members to focus on, that will help you improve your CAP scores. And David, everything you were saying, it was sort of like a checklist of what to do, I feel like, right? So if you're not at 4 stars yet, if you don't have the quality bonus payments, if you can't afford to have rich benefits, the key, like you were saying, if you have to make a negative change, over communicate it, right? No negative surprises is what I always say for caps, right? You can't allow members to be surprised in January when they get to the pharmacy and their copay is a lot higher, or they have a Part D deductible, which I always call the caps killer, right? But if you don't rely on the ANOC, and if you over communicate it and hold their hands through that change and make sure that they know about it and they know what to expect. These are things we can do, and all the outreach and removing the abrasion, and don't rely on IVR, but do live calls or less abrasive outreaches that are more engaging. I feel like, all of these things plans should be doing, and they can't afford not to be doing them right now, as they're gearing up for the March survey, as they're heading into bid strategy right now for 2023 benefits. I feel like this is a checklist of what they need to be focused on. So and we've had a great discussion. Probably need to cut it and wait for a second episode maybe around these topics. But just to what in this last couple of minutes, what should we have asked that we didn't? Anything super important that you guys want to make sure people hear?
I think where we are right now, very end of December, 1st of January, all the plans should have a pre-cap strategy out there. You should have a strategy of how you're going to reach out to your membership before the cap survey and get your base out to vote. How are you going to get those individuals that value your plan out and respond to the survey and get your response rate up? What's your strategy with that? I think everybody needs to have a pre-cap strategy.
Absolutely. The whole conditioning of members and providers and internal staff, right? And yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, and I would say something we've talked about, having a provider strategy around caps is also important. And having pre-caps, I think right now, being in December, almost in January, that needs to be front and center. Agree, David, completely. Over the course of the year, definitely focus on which providers are ones that are impacting caps. Really paying attention to the overlap between caps and other measures to become a caps-centric organization. A lot of members that have caps issues, and have other issues, they're being contacted by care management. That's an opportunity. They're being contacted by the quality team, by the pharmacy team, by the marketing team. And how can we have an overarching strategy around caps while we're touching members for all of these different things? And so, again, agree with David, pre-caps is front and center, but then it doesn't stop there, because now we're looking at calendar year 2023, and it all starts over again. How can we kind of just set the table right for 2023?
Okay. Hey, thanks guys. That was I feel like a really insightful conversation, really informative, and we kind of looked behind the blinds a bit and made this caps category a little bit less mysterious. So thanks so much. Saeed is a new guest. We always like to give you a second to promote yourself, your company. Like what should people, how can people follow you? How can people kind of know what you guys are up to?
Absolutely. So, we work with many health plans, some 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars in the CAPS area. Our goal is to improve experience. Remember, experience improve CAPS. What we do is predict how people are going to behave. Are they responders, non-responders? Are they negative, positive responders? And then strategy. How do we improve CAPS while also lowering disenrollment, while also improving HEDIS? So we provide all that. So we really if you guys want to contact us, feel free to reach us at decisionpointhealth.com and just hit the icon that contact us, and somebody from the team would be happy to help, and a CAPS expert would be happy to help. But thank you.
Thanks, Saeed. David, anything new going on with you since our last conversation?
Well, since I left Select Health, I'm now working as a healthcare consultant. I work with a number of vendors on helping them learn how to reach out to somebody, in a role as a quality manager at a health plan, how to improve, how to help plans improve. I'm also working directly with some health plans, so I'm happy to do that. It's nice to keep my involvement with Medicare Advantage Stars, and I look forward to continue that work.
Great. I'm sure you're bringing a lot of help and a lot of value right now. Mick, great to partner. Hey, they let us have a second episode. Maybe they'll let us have a third. We'll see. So, but
we shall see. You as well, my friend.
All right. Well, hey, thanks everyone. Thanks so much, guests, and Saeed, David. Thanks, Mick, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye now. Thank you.